In the year 336 BCE, Philip II, the king of Macedonia, was unexpectedly assassinated by one of his own bodyguards. Overnight, his 20-year-old son inherited both a massive power vacuum and the single most lethal military force on the planet. Many doubted the young king's ability to rule, but he possessed a distinct advantage. He had been thoroughly educated by the Greek philosopher Aristotle, who gave him an elite foundation in science, philosophy, and history. This education sparked a deep obsession with Greek mythology. The young king slept with a copy of Homer's Iliad tucked underneath his pillow. He studied the text for specific tactics to emulate. To Alexander, Achilles was a literal blueprint for his existence. The question history often glosses over is which version of this man actually conquered the known world. Was he a highly educated, visionary unifier of cultures? Or was he a brilliant warlord driven by a deeply dangerous god complex? We get an early answer shortly after he took the throne. The conquered Greek city-states looked at the untested 20-year-old and decided this was their chance to regain independence. The city of Thebes rebelled, killing Macedonian supporters and stockpiling weapons. The young king responded with terrifying stayed. He marched his heavily armored infantry, the famous Macedonian phalanx, an impossible distance back to Greece, arriving at the walls of Thebes in just 13 days. When the Thebans refused to hand over their rebel leaders, he ordered a full-scale siege. His soldiers broke through the defenses, slaughtered the defenders in the streets, and systematically burned the 1,500-year-old city to the ground. The human cost was staggering. Every one of the 30,000 surviving citizens of Thebes, men, women, and children, were sold off into slavery. With the ashes of Thebes still smoking, the rest of Greece immediately fell back in line. The new king had sent a clear, undeniable political message. He demanded absolute respect, and any defiance would be met with total annihilation. They called him Alexander the Great. Take a look at this map tracking the Macedonian army's footprint. Over the next few years, Alexander steamrolled through Persian territory, painting the Mediterranean coastline Macedonian. But his momentum hit a literal wall at an offshore island fortress called Tyre. Located a half-mile offshore, Tyre had never fallen to a siege. When Alexander arrived, he asked to leave an offering at their sacred temple, and the Tyrians told him no. Alexander took this rejection as a personal insult. Driven by pure spite, he ordered his men to build a landbridge straight through the sea. For months, his soldiers hauled dirt, stone, and sand into the violent ocean while dodging flaming debris and arrows from the city walls. 8 months later, the bridge was finished, and Alexander's patience was gone. His rams crocked the walls, and his men poured in. Thousands of Tyrians were slaughtered. 2,000 were dragged to the beach and crucified, and 30,000 survivors were sold into slavery. The massive land bridge Alexander built out of anger is still there today. He turned Tyre from an island into a peninsula because he was denied entry to a temple. Alexander's ego was tested again as he headed toward Egypt and hit the fortress city of Gaza. The city was commanded by a defiant Persian veteran named Betis, who swore a blood oath to protect the wall and refused to surrender. Alexander ordered his men to build giant dirt ramps to scale the massive hilltop defenses. After months of fighting under boiling oil and flaming arrows, the Macedonians breached the city. The defenders fought to the death, but Betis was captured alive. Brought before the Conqueror, Betis stood in absolute silence and refused to bow. Alexander sneered at the defiance, and then realized this was his perfect opportunity to live out his childhood obsession with the Iliad. Mimicking the way Achilles treated his defeated rival in the epic poem, Alexander ordered his guards to drive bronze rings through Betis's ankles. They tied the Persian commander to a chariot, and Alexander whipped the horses into a full-blown charge, dragging Betis around the city walls. Alexander was giddy, playing out the role of a mythological hero. But in the original story, the rival was already dead before being dragged. Betis was entirely alive. Alexander's desire to look like a legend completely overrode his capacity for basic human mercy. By 328 BCE, Alexander had conquered half the known world, but as his borders expanded, his mind was shifting. He began adopting the customs of the empires he defeated. He abandoned his traditional Macedonian roots, choosing instead to wear Persian clothing and act like a foreign king. Most controversial of all, he started demanding absolute submission. He expected his subjects, and even his own generals, to physically bow to him, treating him not as a mortal commander, but as a living god. To the old-school Macedonian veterans who had bled for him across thousands of miles, this was repulsive. The cultural pivot deeply fractured the foundational loyalty of his army. The growing resentment finally exploded at a drunken feast in modern-day Uzbekistan. The wine was flowing, and Alexander began loudly praising his own achievements, comparing himself to Hercules, and claiming he had surpassed his own father. Cleitus the Black, a fiercely loyal general who had literally saved Alexander's life in battle years prior, couldn't take it anymore. He stood up and pushed back against the king's delusions, shouting that Alexander's victories were built on Macedonian blood, not divine right. The room went dead silent. Humiliated and blinded by rage, Alexander grabbed a spear from a guard and drove it straight through Cleitus's heart, killing his closest friend instantly. The second Cleitus hit the floor, the alcohol wore off. Alexander locked himself in his tent for 3 days, refusing to eat or drink, crying out that instead of the legendary hero he envisioned, he was now a common murderer. Alexander the Great undeniably redrew the map of the ancient world, but his brilliant, visionary triumphs cannot be separated from the terrifyingly fragile ego of the man who achieved them.